Hello, dear story lovers. At the amount of 1,000 subscribers, I will post a huge series of special stories for you. Subscribe now. The lights of the Zytherian outpost flickered faintly against the vast darkness of space, its rotating spires humming with activity. It was an unremarkable evening, and Dr. Eliana Quinn was preparing to end her shift in the medical bay. For all its galactic splendor, Zytherian's infirmary was a patchwork of alien tech and outdated Earth equipment, barely enough to keep up with the motley assortment of species that passed through the hub. Eliana rubbed her eyes, fatigue tugging at her thoughts. She was organizing the autoclave when the intercom crackled to life. Emergency incoming. Royal clearance required. Priority level Omega Red, the automated voice droned. Eliana frowned, her fingers freezing midair. Omega Red wasn't just a high-priority alert, it was unheard of. Before she could fully process, the double doors to the bay hissed open, and a squad of towering figures stormed in, their sleek armor gleaming under the harsh lights. The Venaxians. Eliana's breath hitched. She had studied them in medical school, but she had never expected to see one up close, much less an entire royal convoy. The lead guard stepped forward, his voice cold and metallic through the translator affixed to his helmet. "We have an emergency. The princess requires immediate medical attention." Before Eliana could respond, they wheeled in a gurney carrying the prone form of Princess Seraphine. Even unconscious, the princess radiated an aura of defiance. Her silvery skin shimmered like liquid mercury, and her long, azure hair was tangled with leaves and dirt, evidence of an escape gone wrong. Her breathing was labored, her chest heaving erratically. "What happened to her?" Eliana asked, quickly switching into medic mode. "She collapsed during transit from Tyrrek 4, the guard answered tersely. "You are to stabilize her immediately. No mistakes." Eliana ignored the intimidating tone and leaned closer, scanning the princess with her handheld diagnostic device. The readings made little sense, a mix of alien vitals fluctuating wildly. "I need more information," she said. "What was she doing on Tyrrek 4? Has she been exposed to foreign substances or pathogens?" The guards exchanged uneasy glances. "That information is classified." "Classified?" Eliana snapped, glaring at them. "Do you want me to treat her or not? I can't work blind." The guards hesitated, then the lead one relented. "She left without authorization. We found her wandering the surface of Tyrrek 4, a quarantined planet. She refused to explain herself." Eliana felt a flash of anger. Of course. A rebellious royal with no regard for protocol had landed herself in critical condition, and now it was her problem. Still, the medic in her overruled her frustration. She turned back to the gurney, pulling out a tray of tools. "This is going to take time," she said. "I need all non-essential personnel out of the room. If you want her to live, give me space." The guards bristled but complied, lining the walls in stoic silence. Eliana worked methodically, her fingers moving with precision as she hooked up monitors and injected stabilizing compounds. The princess's vitals were a storm of contradictions, heart rate too fast for a Venaxian but too slow for a human, neural activity erratic, and an unidentified toxin coursing through her bloodstream. It was clear that standard protocols wouldn't work. "I need to run a full bioscan," Eliana muttered to herself. She activated the infirmary's advanced scanner, a bulky machine that hummed to life, casting a soft blue light over Seraphine's form. The holographic display lit up with her internal anatomy, a mesmerizing blend of unfamiliar organs and glowing veins. As the scan progressed, the toxin's signature became clearer. It was a compound Eliana had never seen before, yet it interacted with the princess's biology in a disturbingly familiar way. She narrowed her eyes, recalling the medical texts she had studied on xenobiological immunodeficiency disorders. "This isn't a natural illness," Eliana said aloud. The lead guard stiffened, stepping forward. "What do you mean?" "I mean someone did this to her," Eliana replied grimly. This is synthetic. A poison. The room fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the rhythmic beeping of the monitors. Eliana looked up at the guards. Whoever's responsible knew exactly how to target her physiology. If you want her to survive, I need complete access to your medical archives. The guard's hesitation was palpable. The Queen will not approve dash. The Queen isn't here, Eliana cut him off, her voice firm. You brought her to me because no one else would touch her. Now let me do my job. After a tense pause, the guard nodded. You have access. But if she dies, so do you. Eliana swallowed hard but didn't let her hands falter. Turning back to her patient, she whispered under her breath, Hang in there, princess. I'm not about to let you die on my table. The infirmary was silent except for the low hum of machinery and the occasional beep of monitors. Dr. Eliana Quinn leaned over her workstation, her brow furrowed in concentration. The bioskin results glowed faintly on the holographic screen before her, revealing intricate details of Princess Seraphine's alien physiology. Eliana was both fascinated and perplexed. The Venaxian body was a marvel of evolutionary engineering, but it made diagnosing her condition a maddening puzzle. Her neural pathways are hyperactive, Eliana muttered, speaking more to herself than anyone in the room. And this toxin, what is it doing? Behind her, the Venaxian guard stood stiff and silent, their imposing presence a constant reminder of the stakes. Failure was not an option. Eliana straightened, running a hand through her auburn hair. She stared at the screen, where the toxin's molecular structure pulsed with an eerie glow. This doesn't match anything in the database, she said aloud. It's either a rare compound or something entirely new. The lead guard stepped forward, his helmet gleaming under the infirmary lights. Can you neutralize it? He asked, his tone devoid of emotion. Eliana shook her head. Not yet. The toxin is embedded in her circulatory system and interacting with her cellular structure in a way I don't understand. It's like it's evolving. The guard's hands curled into fists. She cannot die. The consequences dash I get it, Eliana interrupted. She wasn't in the mood for veiled threats. But unless you want me to stab blindly in the dark, I need more information about her. Genetic history, environmental exposures, dietary habits, everything. The guard hesitated, exchanging a glance with his comrades. Venaxian royal records are restricted. Then unrestrict them, Eliana snapped. I'm a doctor, not a miracle worker. If you don't trust me, take her somewhere else. The guard stepped closer, towering over her. There is nowhere else. Their exchange was interrupted by a soft groan. Both Eliana and the guards turned to the gurney, where Princess Seraphine stirred. Her silver eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes like molten gold. She looked at Eliana, her expression a mix of defiance and pain. You're the medic? Seraphine's voice was raspy but strong, each word carrying an imperious edge. Eliana approached, her tone softening. Yes. I'm Dr. Quinn. You've been poisoned, and I'm trying to figure out how to save you. Poisoned? Seraphine repeated, her lips curling into a bitter smile. Figures. Eliana crouched beside the gurney, her gaze steady. I need your help. Do you know who might have done this to you? Or how? Seraphine's eyes flicked to the guards before returning to Eliana. No one likes me enough to try, she said with a wry laugh, which quickly turned into a painful cough. But if I had to guess, someone wanted to keep me quiet. Quiet about what? Eliana pressed. The princess hesitated, then winced as another wave of pain rippled through her. It doesn't matter. Just do your job. Eliana frowned but decided not to push. Instead, she moved back to her workstation and began analyzing the toxin further. Using a combination of Earth-based nanotechnology and Venaxian molecular analysis tools, she isolated the compound's active components. What she found chilled her. This toxin is designed to mimic genetic flaws, she murmured. It's targeting her regenerative cells. One of the guards stiffened. Impossible. The royal family is genetically enhanced. There are no flaws. Eliana spun to face him, her voice sharp. Then someone created one. This toxin is exploiting her physiology in a way that's almost personal. She turned back to the screen, her mind racing. The toxin wasn't just an attack, it was a masterpiece of biochemical engineering, tailored specifically for Seraphine's DNA. Whoever created it knew her intimately, her genetic makeup, her vulnerabilities, even her rebellious tendencies. A sudden thought struck her. The planet she's visited, Eliana said, glancing at the guards. Tyrek 4 is quarantined for a reason. What was she exposed to there? The lead guard looked uncomfortable. Tyrek 4 has an ecosystem of bioadaptive organisms. They can bond with foreign DNA. Eliana's stomach dropped. Bioadaptive? You mean parasitic? The guard nodded. It's possible she encountered one, but the scans showed no physical organisms remaining. Because the toxin isn't from the organism, Eliana said, pacing. It's a byproduct. Something she touched that triggered her immune system to produce this reaction, but it's been engineered to amplify the damage. She turned back to Seraphine, whose breathing had grown shallower. This isn't just a poison. It's a message. Seraphine's golden eyes narrowed. Then decode it, Doctor. Before I die. Eliana met her gaze, her resolve hardening. I will. But I'll need to get creative. The lead guard stepped forward. What do you need? A secure lab, full genetic sequencing access, and complete honesty from all of you, Eliana replied. If you hold anything back, I won't be able to save her. The guard nodded reluctantly. You'll have it. As the guards left to arrange her requests, Eliana turned back to Seraphine. You've got enemies, Princess. But don't worry, IVE faced worse odds. Seraphine managed a weak smile. Then let's see if you're as good as they say. The lab Eliana had been granted was more advanced than anything she'd worked in before. Its walls were lined with shelves of exotic compounds, alien instruments hummed with energy, and a central holographic display projected a three-dimensional model of Seraphine's cellular structure. Despite the cutting-edge tools, the task felt monumental. Time was running out, and Princess Seraphine's condition continued to deteriorate. Eliana worked tirelessly, isolating the toxin's genetic interplay and testing potential antidotes on simulated models. As she worked, she became increasingly aware of a gnawing feeling there was something she wasn't being told. The guards were too tight-lipped, and Seraphine's cryptic remarks hinted at a deeper conspiracy. Hours later, Seraphine stirred on the gurney behind her. You've been staring at that screen for too long, Doctor, the princess said weakly. Her voice was hoarse but carried its usual sardonic edge. Don't humans need to sleep? Eliana turned to her, exhaustion etched on her face. And don't Venaxian royals have better things to do than run off to quarantine planets? Seraphine smirked faintly. Touché. Eliana grabbed a stool and sat beside her. You know, if you'd tell me what really happened on Tyrek 4, it might save me a lot of guesswork. Seraphine's golden eyes searched Eliana's face. For a moment, the rebellious facade faltered, revealing something raw and vulnerable. You wouldn't believe me. Try me. Seraphine sighed, her voice barely above a whisper. I went to Tyrek 4 because of the ruins. There's an ancient site there one my people forbid us from visiting. But I had to see it for myself. What did you find? The princess hesitated, then said, a relic. It was. Alive, in a way. When I touched it, it burned, like it was reaching inside me. Eliana frowned. A bioadaptive organism? Maybe. Or something worse. I don't know. But when the guards found me, they destroyed the site and told me to forget it ever happened. Eliana's mind raced. And then you got sick? Seraphine nodded. Almost immediately. Eliana leaned back, processing the revelation. If the toxin was linked to this relic, it wasn't just a biological weapon, it was connected to something ancient and potentially powerful. The implications made her stomach churn. I think someone wanted to punish you for going there, Eliana said carefully. But I don't think it's just about you. That relic. It's important. Before Seraphine could respond, the doors to the lab slid open with a hiss. The lead guard entered, flanked by two others. His expression was unreadable behind his helmet, but his body language was tense. What's going on? Eliana asked, rising to her feet. We have new orders, the guard said curtly. The Queen has decided to recall the princess to Vanox. What? Eliana exclaimed. She's not stable. Moving her could kill her. That is no longer your concern, the guard replied, stepping forward. Prepare her for transport. Eliana blocked his path. No. You brought her to me because I'm the only one who can save her. If you take her now, she won't make it. The guard loomed over her. This is not a debate, human. Behind them, Seraphine's voice rang out, weak but defiant. Stand down. The guards froze, turning to her. Seraphine pushed herself up on one elbow, her expression fierce despite her frailty. I'm not going anywhere. Not until Dr. Quinn finishes what she started. Your Highness, the guard began, but Seraphine cut him off. That's an order. The guards exchanged uneasy glances, then stepped back reluctantly. Eliana let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Thank you, she said to Seraphine. The princess gave her a faint smile. Don't make me regret it. Later that evening, Eliana was reviewing data when she noticed something odd in the files the guards had provided. A series of encrypted documents caught her eye. With a few deft keystrokes, she bypassed the security protocols and opened them. What she found made her blood run cold. The documents detailed a covert operation involving the relic on Tyrrek 4. It wasn't just a forbidden site, it was a weapon. The Vanoxian government had been conducting experiments there, trying to harness its power. When Seraphine stumbled upon it, she became collateral damage in a larger scheme. The toxin in her system wasn't an accident, it was part of a failsafe to eliminate intruders. Eliana's hands trembled as she read. The Queen had known. The guards had known. They had brought Seraphine to her not because they trusted her, but because she was expendable, a scapegoat if things went wrong. A soft voice broke her thoughts. What are you doing? Eliana turned to see Seraphine watching her from the gurney, her golden eyes sharp despite her weakened state. Eliana hesitated, then said, I found something. Something you need to see. She brought the holographic display to Seraphine's bedside and showed her the files. As the princess read, her expression darkened. They knew, she said, her voice trembling with rage. My own mother knew. Eliana placed a hand on her shoulder. I can still save you. But you need to decide what you're going to do after that. Seraphine's jaw tightened, and for the first time, Eliana saw not just a rebellious royal but a future queen. I'm going to make them pay, she said. All of them. Eliana nodded. Then let's make sure you live long enough to do it. The dim light of the lab bathed Dr. Eliana Quinn's face as she worked tirelessly. The data she had uncovered only sharpened her focus. Saving Princess Seraphine was no longer just about treating a patient, it was about justice. The toxin, a bioengineered weapon designed to suppress anyone who dared interact with the relic on Tyrrek 4, was a masterpiece of genetic warfare. But Eliana had found its weakness. By reverse engineering the toxin's adaptive properties and combining it with elements from Seraphine's DNA, Eliana created an antidote. The solution was risky. It involved introducing a tailored protein that would neutralize the toxin but put immense strain on Seraphine's body. "Are you ready for this?" Eliana asked, sitting beside Seraphine's gurney. The princess, pale but determined, met her gaze. "I've never been ready for anything in my life," Seraphine replied with a faint smile. "But that hasn't stopped me yet." Eliana chuckled softly, then nodded to the Venaxian guards. "This is going to take hours. No interruptions." The lead guard hesitated. "If this fails, it won't," Eliana interrupted firmly. "Now step back." With trembling hands, Eliana prepared the injection. The antidote glowed faintly, a mix of human ingenuity and alien biology. She administered it carefully, watching as Seraphine's veins illuminated briefly before fading. The princess winced, her body tensing as the antidote began its work. For hours, Eliana monitored her, adjusting her support systems as Seraphine's vitals fluctuated wildly. There were moments when Eliana thought she had lost her, but each time, the princess pulled through, her resilience defying the odds. Finally, as the first rays of Zytherian's twin suns broke through the lab's viewport, Seraphine's breathing steadied. Her golden eyes fluttered open, and she gave Eliana a weak but victorious smile. "Did I die?" she asked, her voice raspy. "Not today," Eliana replied, her relief palpable. "But you gave it your best shot." Seraphine laughed softly, wincing at the effort. "You really are as good as they say." 2 days later, a royal transport ship arrived to escort Seraphine back to Venox. Eliana was summoned to join her, an honor she had not anticipated but couldn't refuse. The journey was a blur of sleek corridors, formal greetings, and tension as thick as the ship's reinforced hull. Venox itself was a planet of breathtaking beauty, its skies a swirling mix of violet and gold, its cities gleaming towers of crystal and steel. Eliana barely had time to take it all in before being whisked to the royal palace for Seraphine's coronation. The ceremony was a grand spectacle. Thousands of Venaxians filled the sprawling amphitheater, their voices rising in an ancient chant as Seraphine ascended the throne. She wore a flowing gown of shimmering silver, her azure hair crowned with a circlet of luminous gems. Despite her regal appearance, there was a fire in her eyes, a determination that Eliana knew stemmed from the ordeal they had endured together. As the queen's ceremonial staff was placed in her hand, Seraphine rose, her voice commanding as she addressed her people. "My ascension is not just the passing of power but the beginning of change. For too long, secrets and fear have ruled our world. No more." The crowd murmured in surprise. Seraphine's gaze swept over them, her voice steady. "The relics of Tyrrek IV are not threats to be destroyed, but truths to be understood. The toxin that nearly killed me was not an accident, but an act of treachery. And I will uncover who was responsible." The murmurs grew louder, but Seraphine raised her hand, silencing them. "I will lead Venox into an era of transparency and cooperation. We will open our borders, share our knowledge, and embrace our place in the Galactic Alliance. No more fear. No more lies." The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the amphitheater. Eliana watched from the side, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. This was the Seraphine she had seen glimpses of, the leader who could inspire and unite her people. After the ceremony, Seraphine sought Eliana out in the palace gardens. "You saved my life," she said simply. "And you're about to change the galaxy," Eliana replied with a smile. Seraphine tilted her head, steadying her. "I want you to stay. Help me build the medical exchange we talked about. Venox could use someone like you." Eliana hesitated, the weight of the offer sinking in. She thought of Earth, of Zytherian, of the life she had left behind. But she also thought of the possibilities, the chance to make a real difference on a galactic scale. "I'll need to pack my things," she said finally. Seraphine grinned. "Good. Because we've got a lot of work to do." As the two women walked through the gardens, the sun setting in vibrant hues behind them, Eliana couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning. Together, they would heal more than just wounds, they would heal worlds.